Here's my script. Could you read
Okay,
it?
yeah, and move that
Let's
script over
edit
here.
this part
Yeah.
out, okay?
Going 10-1. Rain dance, Sundance, con.
Let's do this. You guys ready?
Quiet
Thank you
on
so
set.
much for this award. Ready and action.
Welcome back to Mel Moment Mondays. I'm your host, Mel, and today we have a super badass guy from LA, Gabe Rios. Thank you so much for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's been quite a while since I've seen you in person. I know we like connected back 2019 maybe.
Yeah, I moved to LA in 2020, right? So, and we were both living in San Jose.
Yeah, we were living in the Bay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, it's been a while.
Yeah. Dude, we've been friends forever.
I know, it feels that way. It's kind of cool though. Like,
where did we first meet? What was the first thing
oh my gosh. I want to say like a Facebook film Bay group or something.
Really?
Yeah. And then I know I hopped on to like one of the like your acting thing in the Bay. I did one of those, hopped on one of those, and then the Op Tempo thing.
Dude, that's right. Shout out Op Tempo shooting group. Dude, what was the film that we worked on together?
I don't know if we worked on a film.
You said you came on to an acting thing? What was it?
Oh no, it was like a class or something. I think it was like some sort of class.
Oh, dude, maybe it was the Hive acting school. Might have been that.
I can't.
Were you
remember.
acting? You act, right?
No, I don't act.
Oh.
But I was like sitting in like trying to like learn like what's an acting class like look like for like professionals in California.
Yeah. Dude, we've been friends for like how many years now then?
Like 5, 6, going on 6 years.
At least 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
Super crazy. Anyways,
and we're still friends, so I must be doing something right.
What got you into like filmmaking and into stunts specifically? I feel like stunts is like kind of a very like niche part of the film world.
I fell into it, literally. Stunt man joke. No, I think everyone's stories is different because it's such like like you said, like a weird job to even think to do, right? I had like a normal person job. I was selling motorcycles. I was working at BMW motorcycles in San Jose at the time. And I got in a wreck. I got in a really bad wreck, and I couldn't go to work for like a month. And I had a cast on my hand, so I couldn't like ride motorcycles, and that's like part of the gig. And so I was just like Craigslisting one day, like, oh, what jobs can I do where I don't have to do anything physical? And I found a movie shooting in the Bay. My buddy, now my longtime friend now, Sean, I always mess up his last name, Sean Piccinino. I totally messed that up, but he was directing a film in the Bay. And I seen it on Craigslist. They were looking for extras. They're paying like $100, but they needed like a bunch of people to fill up this college scene. So I went because I had a cast, and I was like, oh, I just have to walk around. And that's when I met Sean, and I made $100 or 100 and something bucks that day. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then so I kept in touch with Sean, and I started doing more acting stuff. I looked up like an acting school. That's when I started going to acting classes, and I started booking like little commercial stuff here and there. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like I'm actually making like a decent amount of money, and this is actually fun. And then Sean, funny enough, that same director, Sean, he was directing a movie for Netflix called Wheels of Fortune, or maybe it wasn't for Netflix, but it's now on Netflix. And I got hired as a stuntman on it. And I worked a couple like little things. I was like hired as an actor because I used to compete in Muay Thai. And so I was getting like these like more actiony acting roles. And so I was like starting to meet stuntmen. The first ever stunt guy I met was Sammy Horowitz and Corey Nabayers, that you don't know the names, but really solid dudes. I met them on this MMA movie. What is it called? A Notorious Nick. It's about a true story about a fighter missing an arm that he became champion in this organization. And I met Sammy Horowitz and Corey Myers, and they were just like solid dudes, like blue collar guys like me, like really humble, hardworking dudes. And I was like, oh, and some actors are kind of weird, right? Like a lot of actors are kind of weird, but these guys were like cool, like manly dudes, like, and talking about boxing and sports and stuff. And so I kind of gravitated to them, and I started looking more into stunt side of things. They taught me how to do my first reactions on that movie because I got beat up by the main actor. They're like, all right, don't hit the star, but also make it look like you're getting hit. So I was like, oh, okay, this is because I used to compete for reals. So I was like, if I don't get touched, why would I move, right? Like it doesn't make, unless you train it, it doesn't make sense or explain it to me. So I was like, okay, cool. And they're like, all right, cool. He's gonna hit you here. You're gonna take the jab here, and then you're gonna come with this. But then he's gonna hit you twice, and then you're gonna fall, and whatever the choreo was. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So it's like acting. And anyways, so I got a couple credits here and there, doing acting stuff, and then I applied for Sean's movie. We kept in touch. He put me in contact with the stunt coordinator, and I booked the role. I booked the stunt role, doubling a guy. Dublin, the producer actually of the movie. Okay, it's coming back to me. So it's been so long since I thought about this. The producer is one of the actors in the movie, and there's a scene. It's a comedy. There's a scene where his leg gets wrapped up in some stuff. I think straps or something, and the car takes off, and he's like, oh, oh, and it pulls him away, and it's dragging him. And so I doubled him.
Oh my gosh!
I was probably a terrible stuntman and actor at the time. But Sean was really sweet, and he gave me a shot. So yeah, that's kind of what started me.
Wow, that's so unique and like very like dynamic. Like went from motorcycles into like I just need money to now I'm like full into this stunt thing. That's like super cool.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this is this is fun. I'm gonna keep doing this until I can't pay my rent anymore, and it kind of just never went back to my day job. And I make more now than I've ever made in any other job. So yeah, it's kind of like, I guess this is what I do now.
What types of like what would you say is the difference between the types of stunts that you started off with versus like what you do now?
Hmm. I kind of do the same thing. I started in stunts like at 27, 28. And my background was martial arts, and I went to school to be a cop. So a lot of like tactical movement stuff, shooting guns, all that, a little bit of driving, kicking in doors, tackling people, arresting people, or I'm Hispanic, so I rob people and shoot at people too. But yeah, I don't. I try. So with stunts, people don't realize like there is all the basic things that everyone should know to be a stuntman, like fighting, falling, a little bit of acting, and you should be a good at least five things, decent at five things, but good at three things. And my three things are fights, falls, and acting. Those are my like things I do really well. And then I can drive little cars, motorcycles, fire stuff like that. I can do okay, but I don't market myself as those things. And then you have the things that people are really good at, the small groups like the guys that jump out of planes, or the guys that do scuba stuff, or the guys that do really, really high falls. A high fall, considered a high fall, was like 30 feet and up. So guys that do 80 feet, 100 feet, it's a very niche group that does those things. Not everyone's expected to know those things. So there's the five basic things. You should be really good at three of them. And there's the niche things that there's a group of people that only do those things, like skiing or whatever it is.
Gotcha. In terms of like equipment that you use, for people who aren't familiar in the stunt world, what are some things that they use to like keep you safe, or to like act out the stunts, like ropes or bungees, pulleys, any of those?
So the most basic pads that we use are like, of course, knees and elbows. That's like obvious. but we have what we call a gator back, which is it's from motorcycles, I believe. I think it started from motorcycles, but it's basically a spine protector that if I can jump up right now and land on the concrete and I'm not going to chip a bone, or mess up my spine. That's I think those things are most used in my stunt bag. I also have ankle protectors because if I'm doing like a stair fall or something, I usually like chip up my ankle bone. So if I can wear them, I will. Um, and then we also have like hip pads. We call it like girdles, like for football. But we also have like insert pads where depending on the stunt you do, you can pretty much judge or you try, and anything can change. Especially if you're working with an actor or somebody else is in the scene with you. You're like, oh, I think I'm going to fall on this side, and you can pad up and put all the inserts on that side, and the actor does something different on the day, and it's like screws everything up. But you can try, right?
Right.
We have inserts. Um, yeah, those are the main things that we use. And then we have like specialty stuff like harnesses for wire work. Um, I have a jerk vest. We call them jerk vests. It's like a vest that has a bunch of points on them to rig from. So if I need to fly or if I need to get blown up and spin out or whatever it is, they can choose any of these pick points to pick from. So those are, but all this stuff's pretty expensive. So it's like $1,000 for a jerk vest, and then they got different ones for your hips and other stuff.
Are you like are you expected to have the gears yourself if you roll up as a stuntman, or kind of depends on the project?
Yeah, you should have at least all of your pads. You should have a bag full of all your pads at the very minimum. And then depending on who the coordinator is, some of them expect you to have a vest too, a jerk vest, a harness. But depending on the person, sometimes if you show up to a job and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna we're gonna pull you up, the 11 from Stranger Things, she's gonna do this thing and lift you up and then throw you, whatever," and you show up like, "Oh, I didn't know I was doing that." I'm like, they'll be like, "Oh, good, we have a harness for you. We're gonna throw it on. What size are you? Medium, large? Cool, we got you." But then sometimes coordinator will be like, "You don't have your own vest," and they'll look at you like, "Okay." So it just depends on different schools of thought about that. I like to have everything prepared and ready in case anything. I bring like my standard bag that has all my basic stuff in it, and I leave like any like specialty stuff in my trunk. So in case this gets thrown on me, I'm like, oh yeah, I got a helmet, I got a whatever, I got all that stuff with me. I don't have to like borrow anyone's sweaty gear or anything.
Gotcha. Yeah, I feel like with stunt stuff, it's like very like kind of personal to you and very like it fits you and stuff. So you'd kind of want your own stuff at the end of the day if you can.
And also like we're like the performer is like the second coordinator. Like it's our job. Like no one's gonna care about our safety more than us, right? So you might get on a job and a stunt coordinator, most stunt coordinators are great people and they really do care about your safety and getting the shot and doing a good job. But they're busy. They have a lot of stuff they got to focus on. Sometimes it'll be like a war scene, like, oh, this 1811 or whatever show, war movie, and they got horses and explosions and all these people, and they got assistants helping them, but um, maybe they're all kind of scattered, right?
Right.
So I can't completely rely on these guys to think of everything for me. I have to like have all my gear, have all my pads, be putting pads on even just in case stuff, and then also like looking at the rig, like, oh, okay, so this wire is gonna pull me there, and I'm gonna fall over here. The pad's right there. I think I'm gonna move the pad 2 feet. Hey, boss, can I move the pad over here? I think I might fall over here actually, based off the rehearsal we just did. And then also this horse is riding through the scene, so after I fall, he's gonna be riding this way, kind of close to my head. Can we do this? Like make these changes because they might not even notice. And I'm like, oh wow, I didn't even think of that. That's a good point. So it's kind of our job to have all the stuff that we need to keep safe, but also check everything that we're doing before we do it because someone might miss it, right?
Right. And how does the type of stunts like differ depending on like what role you get, like military versus like Western versus like a police, like a, you know, urban police? Like how would you approach that if you got the role? What would be the first thought, and then when you're on set, like how do you kind of like, I guess, coordinate it with yourself, or like how you move?
So I like to play like my own characters. I double a lot of actors because of my height and my ethnicity, 6 foot Hispanic. That's
Right.
younger. There's not a lot of us in California. Um, so I do a lot of doubling, but I really enjoy playing characters. So I get to act and do my own stunts. That's like what I like to do. But sometimes like I have a lot of training with guns, but depending on like the era of or the character, my movement's going to be completely different, right? If I'm a police officer today's time, I would be drawing from here and pulling out here, like we learned at up tempo training.
Right.
Got up tempo. But if you're like in the 1800s cop, you're going to be like standing like sideways like this because they didn't have bulletproof vests, and this is how they train. Like they're trying to make a smaller target, and there's all these techniques, right? Or if I'm playing a cholo, I'm doing really awful technique. Um, but yeah, it's like knowing your character and the time frame and the area of the world you're operating and all that stuff. So I think a little bit of it is doing your own research on what you're portraying, but also there's a team behind you that you can rely on. Like usually there's like what's like like can't think of the word. People that like are there for like the to teach you how to speak the language or
Oh, okay. Yeah,
the
like coaches
accent.
or something. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Like stunt coach, stunt coordinator, or I don't know.
No. Like anyways, there's like different like head of departments. Like this guy is the gun guy. Like this is the dialect coach. I got it. Dialect coach. So if I'm doing like a Western 1800s and I'm like supposed to be talking with some kind of accent, like they'll be there to like say, hey, that word doesn't sound right, or you would say it more like this. And there's people that are they're consulting with the firearm stuff. If it's like a military movie, um, you can research stuff, but there's also people there. Like you should come 90% ready, but the 10% you should rely on the coaches and stuff.
Got you. And then with stunts, there's always like safety is like number one. Besides like padding and stuff, for the actual like props, because like that's what I feel like is the fun. So one of the most fun parts of being a stunt guy, like guns, swords, and all of that. What break it down for me for like safety with like those things, like weapons specifically. How does that? How do you go about being safe on set, and just like kind of the basics of just yourself, how you handle those.
Yeah. Weapons and props. Yeah, especially lately, the whole, there's been a few bad things that have happened on set. So people are trying to get like really um, taking upon themselves like to check things, like what like guns and stuff on set. Um, there is not a lot of movies that use real guns these days, unless the director really likes real guns. But there's like something called I can get one.
Oh yeah, sure.
Something called blank firing guns that only fire blanks, but they look real and they sound real. And they operate the same as a real gun, but you can't put a real bullet in it. And there's also cap guns, and there's also airsoft guns. I'll get a couple. So this is the airsoft gun. This only, if you look at it, it shoots compressed air, and you can put a BB in it, and it will shoot. But I don't own any BBs because of that reason. I want to shoot someone's eye out. But also, um, it's this probably the safest option, and it looks somewhat real for the most part, and also it gives you a feeling of something. If you have just a rubber gun and it's on you to do this, it especially for actors, I feel like it helps actors if they have something to like actually pull trigger and actually do emotion to get them in a character. But the airsoft pistols are probably the safest like in the middle. Um, yeah, I'd say at least do an airsoft because it just helps the actors get in character, and it helps for post production. If it's a close up on the gun and you pull a trigger and nothing's sliding back, and it's really hard to fix that in post. It just makes more work. If it slides back and it has a little bit of recoil, then all you gotta do is add that casing popping out, and it's pretty easy to do. Um, and so this is a I'm missing a piece right here, but this is a blank firing gun. This you cannot put a real round in it. I'll show you. So it looks like this. It doesn't fit a real round. And see this? It looks pretty close to a real gun, but it only holds blanks. So people are like, oh, blank gun. Oh, they get scared, right? There's different kinds of blanks. This is a front firing blank. So a little bit of explosion does come out of it. So if you put it towards your hand and fire it, you have a pretty nasty burn for sure. So they're not completely safe like a airsoft is, but you can't put a real round in it. So that's the nice part. And then there's real guns. I'm not going to show that on here, but there are real guns that I don't like. I personally am familiar with weapons. I like going shooting with my buddies, and I used to go to school to be a police officer. So I'm pretty comfortable around guns. So if I'm ever firing a real gun on set and they're putting blanks in it, so there's blank guns that only have blanks, and then there's real guns on set where they put blank rounds, and it could be a quarter load or a half load, which just means they're louder and have more of a recoil, more of a kick. Um, but if I'm ever shooting at like I was just on a movie recently where it's like this giant firefight and we have real guns. I think I had an Uzi and my buddy in the car had an AK. I'm hanging out of the window of the car and the car is drifting around this corner and I'm coming around, hanging out the window and I'm shooting at these two actors. And it's my job to double check everything as a professional. If I'm firing at a really, really famous person or any human is their life is special and important. It's my job to check these things. And if you have a professional armor on set, they will show you without you having to ask. Like, look at this. This is a blank, no real rounds. They'll load it and everything for you. They'll tell you if the safety's on or not. But when you have an actor on set that doesn't, people are getting better at like, okay, even though I'm just an actor, yeah, I shouldn't be ever handed a gun that's dangerous, right? But now even actors are checking directors and everyone on set that doesn't feel safe, there's come up and check. And that's a beautiful thing that we're getting to.
And there's a bunch of other like for explosions. I know there's like some like for safety with those, or just explain like what types of explosions can go off and like I don't know the name of it, but like a dirt box, that like comes up out of the ground. Like explain kind of like what that is, how you would act that out, or like if there's any safety precautions with those versus like, I don't know, like real pyrotechnics or something.
Yeah. I don't want to say anything where I'm wrong because I'm not a special effects guy, but from my experience working with explosions, there's different types, right? There's the dirt ones where they're pretty safe unless you're standing directly on it, then you can sprain an ankle or whatever, but those are pretty safe. It's just an electrical charge that poofs dust and stuff. I've worked with those, but then there's also ones with real fire and stuff. I think I think the special effects guys, they don't put any of the really dangerous ones too close to people, from what I remember. And then the really dangerous explosions, real fire ones, they'll put in designated areas and they'll mark them off with however they mark them, right? So you can visually see that, hey, this is where that is. Anyone don't walk over here. But yeah, I'm not a special effects guy, so I don't want to say something wrong. But yeah, I work with a lot of those explosions and stuff, and I actually did this TV show a couple months ago where I'm this train protecting this bolt or something, and then these robbers, it's like an 1800s Western thing. These robbers on the other side of the thing, like saying, open up. And I'm like, y'all better, whatever, skedaddle, whatever. And then all of a sudden I hear something, and it's like a sizzle, like a fuse going off. And I'm like, I'm like, oh crap. And then the door blows up, but they have me do the stunt where I'm jumping back, getting blown up, and then I get out, and then they blow up the door. So they're just painting me in afterwards. So there's that too that I've done.
That's so cool. Yeah, like I feel like for stunts at least, a lot of it is closely tied to post and special effects on set as well, which is kind of cool how all those departments like kind of have to coordinate and choreograph it together.
Yeah.
In terms of like hand-to-hand combat or like falling down stairs or stuff like that, how is that different from just like maybe just shooting a gun or like doing the wires?
It's all pretty similar. Like first thing you check is okay, what am I doing? You check the environment. Is there nails? Is there sharp points that we can pad? What pads do I need? Is anyone else involved? I did a tandem stair fall before on a show called SEAL Team. SEAL Team. And the gag was the stunt double for the actor jumps onto the stairs that I'm on, and then we go down the stairs together. And so those types of things you can rehearse it a bunch, but once you're going downstairs with another guy, like it's kind of just like, you're kind of just hoping for the best and trying not to headbutt each other and get your ankle caught in the railing. And, there's some things that you try to be aware of, but once you're going along for the ride, So I think, like even with fights too, like if I'm fighting an actor or another stuntman, it's more of a dance than my performance, right? So it's not like a real fight. Like I used to coming from, doing martial arts, I was like, oh, it's more reactional. Like if you throw a punch, I'm trying to slip or duck it or whatever. But it's actually not reactional. It's more of a team effort thing. Like I'm gonna throw this thing, but you're gonna make it look like you don't know. But I'm gonna make it look like I'm actually trying to hit you, and you just get out of the way. Like it's more of a choreographed dance. That's why dancers, like professional dancers, are some of the best choreographers in stunts because they understand beats, remembering beats, and also working with partners. And yeah, so that's like the biggest thing with fight stuff.
Oh wow, that's so cool. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought dancers, but I mean like that makes complete sense. How they would like choreograph the type of stuff. The next thing I would like talking about falling downstairs and kind of that. Have you had any injuries, and then also kind of like how you would come back from that, or heard of any other people having like really or injuries that would take them out for a while? How does that impact stunt work specifically when it's your job? When you're out. So yeah.
Yeah. That's like one of the pretty common questions like people always ask me when they hear I'm a stuntman. They're like, oh my gosh, have you ever been hurt doing stunts? And my answer is, it hurts every time. Like I've never broken a bone, fortunately. But yeah, falling downstairs, no matter what pads you wear, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna suck. Or getting tackled by a police officer or whatever it is, it's gonna suck. That's just part of the job. That's why we get paid a good amount, is because we're putting our body through a lot of trauma, a lot of stress, and you can't do it very long. Most people have 10 years. If you're lucky, you get 20 or 30 years if you're lucky. If you start at 20 years old, then yeah, you're more likely to get 20 or 30. But if you, like me, start at 27, 28, after being in motorcycle wrecks and competing in martial, like all the stuff that I've done, I'm like, I'm at 6 or 7 years right now, and I'm like, yeah, I think I should start doing more acting, like or something, directing or stuff like that. But yeah, it always hurts. Unfortunately, I've never been like seriously injured doing stunts, but then again, I don't do a lot of the crazy stuff. I don't do car wrecks. I don't do anything that like the two most dangerous things are fire and car wrecks. And I'll do driving, like hot pursuit stuff or things like that, or riding motorcycles, kind of riding in hot or kind of maybe a little slide around a corner, but nothing crazy. I'm not like a motorcycle stunt man. There's a specialty group that just does that. I just do the basic stuff. And then same with fire. If there's an explosion, I'll have a arm on fire or a back, something like that. But I don't. Most of the stuff I do is this fights, falls, and acting. So it's a lot safer than some of the bigger stunts. But yeah, people get hurt pretty often. What people don't realize is usually when stuntmen get injured, it's usually not at work. People don't realize, but if you do this job, you're probably a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. So they go BMXing or they go riding motorcycles or racing or whatever it is, and that's usually when they get hurt.
Gotcha. That kind of makes sense. Going kind of along with that, like what do you think is the hardest part about being a stuntman? Is it physical? Is it mental? Is it, trying to memorize like the choreograph of like what the stunt director wants, or what do you think?
I think it's the same as like everything else in the industry, um, in the entertainment industry, or being freelance. I think is the thing. Like, yeah, staying in shape, spending all this money to learn all these skills and getting better and all that stuff is yeah, it's hard. It takes work. But I think the mental aspect of being a freelancer is the same across the board. Um, there's some jobs I walk away from where I'm like, yeah, I killed that job. I had like a little co-star role on a show called Bosch Legacy a couple months ago, and I went in and I did great. The stunt coordinator, legendary stunt guy Alex Daniels, he's been around forever, but he was super stoked with my job, the job that I did. The director and the writer both were stoked, and I was like, oh man, they're like, Gabe, you freaking rocked it, man! Like you killed it. Like you're an asset to this team. Like you brought it. Thank you so much. Like, and people, I leave set and people on set are still talking about what I did, and like I feel like I really helped the team. I was like an asset to the team. And then I had a job a few months after that, like a month ago, out in Texas, and I felt like I was in the way, like I was useless. And I was like, man, these are things that I don't know how to do, and I'm trying to keep up best as I can, but all night shoots and crazy hours and a lot of waiting around. And then when I was doing something, it was like they were throwing stunts on me that like I never practiced before, and I was like trying to do them. And I was like, man, like, hey, Gabe, try to do this, and I'm like, do it, try to do it, and they're like, you know what? Never mind, just go sit down. I'm like, frick, like, the mental part where it's like the highs are really high and you're making a lot of money and you're doing great jobs, and then you fall on your face on a job. You take a job that you thought you were ready for, but you weren't, or a skill set that you're like, oh, they're like, oh yeah, you're just gonna drive the car in a straight line and stop it here, and then you get there and it's like, no, we want you to do freaking donuts right next to the extras, and then screw it. And like you're like, like and then you feel like crap. It's like, or I don't know which is worse, doing a bad job or not working at all. I'll be going from movie to movie for 3 or 4 months, and then I won't work for like 3 months. Am I ever going to work again? Like just like the mentality of like a freelancer is crazy. And me being a dad, I have a daughter that just turned 12. This summer was rough because she just turned 12 and she like didn't care to see me that much. And I was like, oh my gosh, like she's busy. I was like, hey, can we hang out? She's like, I'll be with my friends on her birthday. And I'm like, oh, dude, like, I guess I'll just take more work. But, like, I think the crazy hours and the crazy going out of town for months at a time and um, trying to find things to do or to keep your mind. I'm super ADD. I don't know if you can tell, but if I'm on a job where like I'm doing well and I'm needed and I have like input on things, creative input, or the team is really loving and welcoming and they like love to have me there and they want my help. I'm like super locked in. I'm like hyper focused. I'm like, yes, this will be cool. This will be cool. Hey, what if the actor comes out and does this? Oh, hey, actor, he doesn't know how to do this thing. How about this? What do you do well? Oh, he does this really well. That would look cool on this part. And I'm just like super locked in. And then there'll be jobs where I'm just sitting around for hours and hours, and then I can't do the stunts that they need, so I'm just kind of in the way, and I'm like just twiddling my thumb, like I should go home because I'm gonna get in trouble because I'm gonna find something else to do or whatever. So yeah, I try my best to only take jobs where I'm like I know I can do this really well, and I'm gonna leave with fans instead of people that hate me. You know. Um,
Isn't that the goal? Isn't that the goal? Leave with fans.
Yes. I try to make a fan of somebody every time I walk in a room. And if I look into a room, I'm like, that guy seems like this or that. I'm just like, I'd rather just not go in that room because I don't think we're gonna get along or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
What has been like the coolest set to be on as a stunt performer, would you say?
oh man. Matrix 4 was pretty cool.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And just a disclaimer, I only worked on it for a week, so I'm not, we got nominated for like a best stunt award or whatever at I don't know. But I was like, I don't even feel right accepting this because I only worked on it for a week, and people were like, worked on it for almost a year, and so disclaimer. Also, I'm the only stuntman that Mel knows, so I'm not the most knowledgeable or best stunt person either. So just another disclaimer for any stunt people that might watch this. Like, what is Gabe on this for? Um, but I think that was just like cool to me because I grew up like watching the Matrix movies and like running along the walls. My mom would be like, "Why are there shoe prints on the walls?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Like, I grew up with that, so it was like just like surreal to be working in my hometown of San Francisco as a professional stuntman on Matrix 4 and hanging out with Keanu Reeves, shooting at him as he's driving by the motorcycle and chasing. There's this really famous, or not, I don't know, famous, but when we were shooting that movie in San Francisco, there's a scene where the director wanted everything practical and everything real and not a lot of CGI. So there's this scene where Keanu and Carrie Ann Moss, I forget her character's name, um, they run up to this rooftop of the skyscraper in San Francisco, get away from the bad guys, and then they run and jump off the skyscraper. And they did that all real on wires and everything. Like huge, like all the
Oh my
best
gosh.
riggers were there, like working together. It was crazy. Anyways, I was in that scene. And I'm just like wearing practical stuff, but I'm like on this rooftop of the skyscraper in my hometown area, chasing Keanu off this skyscraper, and I'm like, dude, is this real life? Like, this is crazy. Like, I grew up watching the original Matrix movies, and now I'm like chasing him off of a skyscraper in my hometown as a professional stuntman. And yeah, I was new, and technically I still am new. But it was just one of those moments where even though I was only on it for a week, it was cool to just be like, yeah, I think I'm finally like a professional at this now. And yeah, it's just cool to let life kind of surprise you. And I just kind of like enjoyed that moment a lot.
That's like a once in a lifetime type of opportunity
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And it was all over the news and stuff. Because people were like videotaping outside like their windows and stuff, like watching, like, oh my gosh, you gotta jumping off of a skyscraper. And I'm like,
I would
I was
too.
there. I'm like, yeah, it was on the newspaper. I was like, I was there, guys.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah, it was
So
cool.
with that being said, what movie franchise would you want to work on? Like your dream franchise? Would it be like The Matrix or like Marvel or like what would it be?
Huh. I had a I had a big audition for the Stranger. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. I think so. I had a big audition for a recurring character on Stranger Things, and I didn't get it because I was already on a stunt job out of town, and didn't really have time to focus on. Or maybe I would have got it anyway, but I didn't try my best on the audition. I was like, dang, that sucks. That would have been cool. But now they're doing a spin-off Stranger Things in New Mexico, and I'm like, man, that would be pretty cool to get like a reoccurring character spot on that show. That would be cool. Or since I have a 12-year-old daughter and I grew up a huge Star Wars fan, I think having like a small role in a Star Wars show or movie would be pretty cool. Like I see like I have friends that like they were stunt doubling someone on Star Wars, or they play like a little character where they're like in a suit. Like my buddy Frank Trigg played this character where he's like in this green suit playing like this orcish kind of like guy on Mandalorian, or is Mandalorian or Boba Fett, one of those. And now he goes like Comic Cons and signs autographs and stuff. And I'm like, and a lot of
Wow.
stuff people that have little roles on these Star Wars shows, they sign autographs now because Star Wars fans are just such fanatics.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
they'll pay for anybody that has to do with Star Wars' autograph. I don't know, but I think me having a daughter and like all her friends are now like they're like preteens and like it's harder to be cool. I think having like a little role in a Star Wars show would be cool, just to like make me cool a little bit longer. Take it
You're
out to
super
Comic
cool. What
Con.
are you talking about?
Oh my gosh, tell my child. Yeah,
It's hard
her
to impress
friends are like,
12-year-old girls. I know.
yeah. Her friends are like, your dad's so cool. My dad's, old and fat, works in the office. Your dad's like taking you on all these cool. I take her to work with me sometimes, like if I'm
Oh.
allowed to, and like she's just like, yeah, there's just flying through the air on a wire, superhero stuff, backflips, and sword fights, and whatever. And like her friends are like, that's not normal. Your dad's super cool. I want your dad. And she's like, okay, I don't know. I'm like, your
What
friends think I'm cool. Why don't you think I'm cool? But if I'm signing autographs at Comic Con and I get to bring her, that'd be cool. And little like if little kids are like dressing up as me as Halloween, like character, like that would be pretty cool.
Oh, that would be pretty cool. Would you want her to get into stunts? Does she have any interest or not really?
I think she's interested. Yeah, I don't think so. Also, stunts, like the stunt world, like more power. I have so much like respect and like I just give the stunt woman so much props because it's so hard to be a stunt woman. Like a lot of like the characters they play, a lot of times they're doubling women. Like they don't get to wear a lot of pads because
Mm.
like women's clothing is just like either tighter or sometimes they're not even wearing clothes. Sometimes they're like in like a nightgown or like in their underwear and they have to do a car hit or something like that. I'm not even that tough. Like that is crazy. Like I get to pat the crap out of me and go downstairs, and I'm complaining like, "Oh, I got a bruise," and they're like in freaking like swimwear doing stair falls, and I'm like, "Yeah, it's not for me." So I have so much respect for stunt women out there. Like they have a really tough job, and yeah, it's and also just like the stunt community is a man's world. Like I would like I've heard stories about like you know bad situations women have been in the industry, not just stunts, but the industry in general. I mean, I'm sure this is every industry, but I think of my daughter in those situations and like, like I wouldn't mind her doing something else. And also we're not like curing cancer. We're just entertaining people. If she can go and do something that fulfills her, makes her happy, first of all, that's like my first want for her. But if something that fulfills her soul and follows whatever like passion God places inside her and follows that, but also um, actually make a difference in the world. Like I wouldn't mind that. Not putting down the entertainment industry. We do stuff too.
Oh, that's super sweet though. Yeah. So now we're gonna play like a film Would You Rather. It's just like one question, but I ask everyone kind of catered to their subject. But would you rather work with, I guess one of these people you kind of already have, but would you rather work with Jackie Chan, Tom Cruise, or Keanu Reeves?
Oh, I already work with Keanu Reeves. He spilled the drink on me. I keep getting off this topic. But we were at the rap party, and he's doing a toast with the directors and producers. Then they're doing champagne. He comes up to our stunt table. We have a bunch of stunt dudes around this table. We have a bottle of whiskey, and he comes up and he's like, he comes up right next to me, and I'm like, it's Keanu Reeves. He comes up, and we're not even working together for a week, but like this is the closest he's been to me and like talking to me. And he's like, hey, we're doing a toast. Is it cool if I get like a little bit of you guys whiskey? I don't really want to do the champagne thing. And we're like, yeah, you Keanu Reeves, do whatever you want. And he's like, oh, thanks, man. And he had like this little satchel thing hanging from his thing. So when he went to pour his drink, there was
Oh
like a drink
no.
at the end of the table, and it knocked over and it spilled on my shoe. And I panicked because I don't want to make him feel dumb or anything or bad. So he looks down. He's like, "Oh man, oh, I'm sorry about that." And I just panicked and I'm like, "Oh no, sir, I think that was me. I think I spilled that." And he's like, "No, it was me, and I apologize." And I was like, "Okay, Keanu Reeves, like it was you. I don't know why I did that." I just panicked, and then he walks away. He's like, "Oh man, the carpet, man." Oh, and I'm like, Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves. That's all you can say.
He's
Keanu
a good
Reeves.
pick. He's a
He's
good
the
pick.
nicest guy in the world. Yeah. What were the other two names?
Jackie Chan and Tom Cruise.
Man, oh, I have a buddy, Tony Vitrioni. I think I might be saying his name wrong. But we are just on a job in Texas, and he was like, "Man, like we're working with one of my favorite directors, and like the whole job went by. I never even got to shake his hand or talk to him. I was like, dang, dude, like this kind of sucks. Like I kind of was hoping to like be directed by him or talk to him, and I was like, it's kind of like with you, like doing a fight scene with Jackie Chan. He's like, dude, that would be insane. So I feel like I would want my friends. I love Jackie. I'm a fan of Jackie, but I think my friends working with Jackie, like I would love to see my friends do a fight scene with Jack or like just work with him and see their faces. I feel like I would be like, if I was working with Jackie, I'd be like, man, this is a waste. Like I kind of want my friend to be here.
Oh.
Um, Tom Cruise is cool too. Why'd you pick those three names specifically? I'm curious.
I feel like they draw different types of people within the stunt community. All of their stunts are like very different. You got martial arts, you got kind of more like Tom Cruise, I don't know, like kind of his own, I don't know. And then Keanu Reeves is like John Wick type fighting versus I feel like Tom Cruise is more like, "Oh, I'll go jump off this thing or I'll like fly on a plane or whatever," which is like not necessarily fighting, but it's more like practical stuff. So just was like kind of putting the three out there because they're all very different. Like, which one would you wanna?
Yeah, I I know Keanu's a really nice guy, and I've heard good things about Jackie too, that he's a pretty nice guy. I feel like as far as styles go, like if I were to play a character, it would be more like Tom Cruise does. I like the type of stunts he does. I feel like those are the type of stunts I do, and I would love to play like the type of characters that he also plays. I was just talking about this yesterday. Like they're like, oh, my acting coach was like, oh, what character would you want to play like right now that you feel like you can handle well? And I was like, man, like playing like Tom Cruise in Oblivion, or like he's like that type of character and those types of stunts. I was like, man, I think that would be really fun to try to do. But also, I hear Tom is a little rough around the edges sometimes, but I try not to like listen to people's opinions of anybody until I meet them and form a decision on my own. Because everybody says something about somebody. Like I'm sure there's somebody out there that doesn't like me and saying something bad about me. I hope not, but it's impossible that everyone likes you. So I'm sure there's somebody out there that doesn't like me. And I would hope if somebody else heard something about me that they would like say, okay, that's your opinion, that's your experience. Let me meet them. And maybe I was having a bad day that day. And it goes the same for these celebrities. Like I've heard terrible things about certain celebrities, and then I get to hang out with them, or I stunt double for them, or whatever. And I'm like, man, like this is the nicest guy. Like, why would somebody say that? Like, and now that I'm getting more into the acting side of things, I'm like seeing like how easy it is for people to be rubbed wrong by you. You know,
Right.
I had my first lead role in this little indie movie, and um, there was somebody on set trying to talk to me, and it was like right before like my big like crying death scene, and I'm like nervous. I'm like, I don't want to look like a jackass trying to cry, like. And it was kind of thrown on me because it was supposed to be the next day, and they're like, "Hey, we got 30 minutes. Let's film your
Oh
crying, big
man.
emotional." And I'm like, "What? Why? No?" And they're like, "You got it. You can do it." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Uh, and then my buddy, a friend of mine, he was a Squib guy on that movie. And he comes up and he's like, "Hey, Gabe, so you watching the Super Bowl this weekend? And we're gonna have it at my house or a party. My wife wants you to come. She wants to make her dish for you and this." And I'm looking at him like, oh, like this is one of those moments where like because you're my friend, I can say, "Hey, man, like let's talk after this. I gotta focus," and he'll understand because he's my friend.
Right.
But if I was Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise, and then some random PA was like, "Hey man, I really like you in Oblivion or whatever," and you're about to do this stressful stunt or acting emotional part, you say, "Hey man, like, I can't talk right now, sorry," and you walk away. In your mind, like you're just focused. In their mind, you're an asshole.
Right.
So it's like, okay, I can now that I've been in those positions, I'm like, oh, I can see how easily somebody can think badly of you. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I've doubled now, like some pretty famous people. I don't know if you know. I stunt doubled for Pedro Pascal for a week. That
Oh
was like
wow.
that's probably my second favorite job actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, he did another disclaimer that was for only a week for one movie. I do not double him for anything else. All the Star Wars stuff, the Last of Us, he has doubles for every region, and they're all amazing doubles. And I don't want to take any credit away from those guys. It was just one week, and that was it. But I had a great time, and he was one of the actors. Like most of the actors that I double are pretty nice. I say almost all of them. I can't even think of one that was not nice, but some of them want to talk to you more than others, right? Um, and Pedro was one of the people that was like always coming up to me and wanting to talk to me, like in between takes and stuff. And it was just such a like a good feeling, like, man, I'm barely doing any stunts for you. Like you're doing most of it yourself. I'm just kind of here just in case kind of thing. Or like, oh, like insurance won't cover that, so you got to do that or whatever. Like
Right.
this is, but he wanted to do everything. And
Oh wow.
so, yeah, it was only like for a couple of the driving sequences, like it was like drifting around a corner and stuff like that. Like things that like, oh, they don't want him to hit one of the parked cars and kink his neck and mess up the movie or whatever. So I barely did anything for him. But anyways, he was always coming up to me and like, "Hey Gabe, so you said you have a daughter, or I heard from the other actor you have a daughter," and just stuff like that. And I'm like, "Yeah, dude." And we just started talking. Like eventually we got to the point where I forgot who he was. We were just like buddies talking, and I was like, "This is probably how it is." Like with celebrities, like eventually they become normal people to you. Like it's only
Right.
because you see him walking across the street, you're like, "Oh my gosh, stop right there." But then if you were to stop and say, "Hey man, relax, get in my car, let's hang out," after a couple of days or a week, you just be like, "Oh yeah, I moved in. He's my roommate. Oh yeah, he is that famous guy from that show." Yeah, it's only because we see him and we think of we think we know him,
Right.
and we build up this thing, right?
It is a weird thing how we look at celebrities, but they're just people at the end of the day. They really are.
Yeah, it's easy to say that, but I think just being around them all the time, like even just living in LA, if I wasn't in the industry, like just seeing people at the grocery store or local bar or whatever, like it, you get used to it, and it's like, okay, like yeah, these guys. that guy from that show is getting drunk and like being an asshole. Okay, like yeah, he's nothing. He's not, superhuman or whatever. Like even Pedro. Maybe I shouldn't talk about our discussions. No. So the one thing about being a stunt double is like my thing is like I want everyone that I double to feel safe, not just physically, but like with like their image and their like um what's it called? Um Private life,
Private life. Yeah.
whatever that's what there's a word for their exclusive whatever. Um Whenever I'm hanging out with a celebrity or doubling one or working with one, I always make it a point to know like, hey man, like whatever you do around me, whatever I see you do, if you whatever jokes you say, whatever you talk about, whatever if you have a bad day or if you need a vent or if I overhear something I'm not supposed to, I just want you to know like it stays right here. Like just now I was gonna tell a funny story about something he said, but it was like borderline private. So I'm like, oh, okay. Like even if it's close, I'm like, no. Um, but yeah, that's something I take really seriously. Like if I'm even if they're an asshole to me, I'm still like I want the next guy that I double to know that even though you're kind of a jerk or whatever, I'm not gonna tell anybody that you're a jerk. I'm not gonna tell anybody what I seen you do or something I heard you say because I want the next actor that I'm working with to know that I care about you and your career. And that's going to help me go further because as a dad, like my number one priority is to continue working to provide for her and keep a roof over the head and food in the mouth and you know have a good career. So it only hurts me to say like oh this actor was mean to me. I'm gonna go talk crap about him and now other actors are not gonna feel safe around me because they heard that. So that's my Pedro Pascal, nicest guy in the world. Everybody knows this. So it wasn't anything negative, but um, yeah, he's a nice guy. But my point was, is he has insecurities and stuff just like everybody. And it wasn't until talking with him where I'm like, oh my gosh, you're worried about this or this you even think about these things like things that I think about like comparing myself to other people or whatever like I would never think that this most famous person in the world right now is also has these thoughts, and I'm like you're just a dude just like me, like just because you're at this level and you're making this much money doesn't mean you don't struggle with these same things that everyone else does, right?
Right.
um, yeah. And it's cool to
Yeah.
see that because like it makes everybody human. Like, okay, the most famous person in the world is having these insecurities, and now everyone else is like, I know for a fact you are, because if this guy is, for sure everyone else is.
Yeah.
It's good to like learn that for myself.
Yeah. It's definitely like kind of creates like a you're not alone type feeling. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
it doesn't
sure.
matter where you get to, you're still gonna have these thoughts and feelings.
Right.
Yeah.
And then for just kind of wrapping it up real quick, since we have just a couple minutes left,
Sure.
if you could tell your younger self something before starting in the film industry, what advice would you give them?
Let yourself gravitate to the people that you feel um, appreciated by, and yeah, go to the rooms that you're celebrated, not tolerated, is the saying. In the beginning, I was forcing friendships with people just because I felt like they were the people I had to be around, and maybe I didn't respect them because of their character or they were rough around the edges or there's things that I didn't vibe with and I would force it and it would never end well. And now that I'm at the ripe age of almost 34, I'm only being around people that make me feel safe, loved, and appreciated. And not only is my career going to new levels because of that, because I'm only in those rooms with those people, but I'm much happier. And I think that's especially in this entertainment freelance kind of job. I think it's important to stay inspired. Yeah.
Wise, Wise words. I think everyone needs to hear that at the end of the day. You know, you're living your life, so you gotta, you know, surround yourself with people you want to work with and who you want to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. Why would I be trying to make somebody like me that I don't want to be like them in the future? I want to be around people that, man, you have a wife and kids and you own this house and you have this pool and you coach their little league, but also you happen to direct these awesome movies and do all these things. Like, I want to be like you in 10 years, so I should be around you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for hopping on today. Oh my gosh, it's been so long and I'm just so glad I could catch up in like this creative way.
Yeah, dude, we should hang out and keep in touch more.
How can people find you on social media?
You can follow me on Instagram. I'm Gabe Take Two, the number two. That's my Instagram. Yeah.
Alrighty.
Any
Awesome. Okay.
directors out there want an action hero for their movie? Please let me know.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know. I've just started to get more into like working with films with more stunts. So if I see anything or there's a word going around, I'll put your
Yeah,
name out there.
yeah, please.
Well, thank you so much. It's been great talking with you, and yeah, we'll catch up later.
All right. Thanks for having me.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to learn more about my experience as an up and coming filmmaker or catch up on more episodes, follow me on Instagram at MELYDE12. This podcast is also available on Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Please like, subscribe, and spread the word. Thank you guys again, and that's a wrap.